Welcome back to TBB,
AKA the Bestie Bonus.
I'm Morgan.
I'm Taylar. And today you're gonna spiral, AKA it's a mini. This is truly just a mini. It's not even just a spiral.
And the question of the week is, what's your current spiral that has kept you up at night? And here are some of the answers that we have. Always JFK keeps me up constantly.
Yes, especially with these, like, all the talks recently.
That Taylar actually was in a trance in that one video. If you know, you know.
Yeah.
It's resurfaced.
It's resurfaced.
And it's doing great. The whole Ruby Frankie story.
Oh,
that keeps me
yeah.
up. Idaho 4 will always be my answer. I think you and the rest of us.
Yes.
If the moon landing is real, there's no wind on the moon. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh my God.
Listen to our moon landing episode if you haven't. Hilarious.
It's so funny.
If we are in the Matrix,
Yeah.
how do cameras work? Specifically old-timey ones. They make my brain hurt.
Oh yeah, I can't even think about that.
I can't even fathom.
No, really, how? And who was sitting there and was like, what if I could just
Capture this moment.
and just like keep it forever?
Crazy.
And then they were like, let me fucking figure it out. I know it's like a bunch of mirrors, like in a camera, because it's just like the light imprinting on it, and then using the like.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. I don't even know how today's cameras work, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah.
Does everything actually happen for a reason? That's a good one. Not so much a rabbit hole, but I always think about how I'm failing my kids. You are not failing your kids.
Oh my God, no.
The Hailey Bieber of it all, if you know, you know.
Yeah.
Pilgrims and the hypocrisy of what that means, and the transition into Salem witch trials. That was a crazy time period.
Like maybe one day we just need to do like a real life we're actually drunk history lesson on it.
Yeah.
Where we just sit
Drunk
here and
history.
Google it. Yeah. But it's like actually we're drunk as fuck trying to figure it out.
The Gabby Petito case, how Brian Laundrie is still alive.
Oh.
How do hydrogen cars work? Hydrogen is fucking heavy. Water is 2 hydrogens only. I'm confused.
Wait, there's hydrogen cars?
Yeah, I've seen like videos of it. I didn't know they were real though.
Me either.
Dream interpretation. Morgan knows too many cult dreams, and so does Patreon, because that was my sister, and I told you guys. Time and relativity, because what is even real, and low-key the 7-part Hailey Bieber series. I love those two blended together.
Yes.
Currently the case of Natalia Grace. I can't tell who to believe.
Oh, okay. I literally have never covered that case, and I really don't plan on covering it.
I've been watching it.
Yeah,
I think
you
I've
have been?
seen 2 episodes.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple more out
It's
now.
crazy case.
The Great Molasses Spill.
Oh, wait. Why do I know that?
I don't know.
Because God knows at 3 a.m. one night, I was reading
Right
about
into
it.
the Great
Yeah,
Molasses
you know, that's
Spill.
exactly
All
what I
right,
was
well, what
doing.
were you spiraling about?
Okay, so what I'm going to be ballerina farming about is going to be actually, well, how we got there was that I was looking into like the building of cities, okay? Because I went down a spiral a few weeks ago about like how Seattle was built and like why there's underground cities, and about how like they lifted everything. So then like the buildings the old buildings that are there, you walk into like on the the top 2 levels, and it goes beneath, and they lifted all the streets, and that's because it was flooding so much. And then they also like had to get rid of this hill to level the land so they could have Seattle. That's why Seattle looks like it's just like a pedestal in the middle of like water and then mountains.
Yeah.
It's because they blew through all these hills and stuff. And anyways, like houses were on stilts. So I read about that, and then I fell into how you build and move highways, and that blew my fucking mind.
Oh yeah.
So then I ended up being like, well, you know, how the fuck did they build Las Vegas in the middle of the desert?
Yeah, and why?
And that led me to the mob. So we're here in mob world today. I hope you guys are excited. I'm probably 100,009 billion% gonna go overtime today, but this is so good. I almost saved it for the mini, but I was like, I want to talk about this at length. So today I'm gonna be covering the case of Bugsy Siegel, the mobster that is credited with creating what is now Vegas and casinos.
Crazy. I didn't know it was mob bill.
Born February 28th, 1906 in the Williamsburg neighborhood of Brooklyn, New York, Benjamin Bugsy Siegel was the second of 5 children belonging to Jenny and Max Siegel, who had immigrated to the United States from Austria-Hungary. They were an extremely poor Ashkenazi Jewish family that really struggled to make ends meet with their large family. Like they had 5 kids, you know? At a very young age, I almost want to say around like 8 or 9 years old, Bugsy dropped out of school and joined a gang on Lafayette Street. I don't know how y'all say it up there, on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, which is where he met and became very close friends with and legitimate partners in crimes with Meyer, the mob accountant Linsky, and Morris Mo Sedway. Now, the three of them began their criminal careers together at a very young age, starting off by extorting local street vendors in exchange for protection from other gangs in the area, aka a protection racket, where they would threaten to burn their push carts down unless they paid them $1 and promised to protect them, along with several other petty crimes, which got him the nickname Bugsy, which at the time was a slang term for the word crazy, because he was known for his violent temper. In fact, he was so crazy that he hated being called crazy, thus hated his nickname. So those who knew him would never ever call him Bugsy to his face. They would only do it when like speaking about him with other people when he wasn't around. And if they did call him Bugsy to his face, or anyone did for that matter, well, let's just say it would never end well. And this is like a little tidbit that I learned when I was watching the BuzzFeed Unsolved coverage of this case, that apparently this is how it goes for mobsters. Like they're all given names like Moose, Tiny.
Why?
Like, you know, like little random names, but those are kind of like your initiation names. So like that's what you are when you're being initiated in. So they're making fun of you, they're hazing you. And then from then on, if they're speaking to your face, so use your last name or your first name. Most of the time it's last name. And then beyond that, like to everyone else, you are known as your nickname. That is what you were given, but you don't ever fucking say it to a mobster to their face.
Damn.
And I love that we all just like call them by their fucking nicknames that they all hated. It's so funny. So with a nickname and a reputation like this at such a very young age, it's no surprise that as he went into his teen years, Bugsy and his little trio of Mo and Linsky were escalating with their crimes, with being well known for car theft, bootlegging, as this was their specialty, and big money at the time because of prohibition, and gambling, which is how they were rising very quickly through the ranks of the New York criminal underworld, leading Bugsy to escalate to committing things such as armed robberies, rapes, and murders. In fact, it is widely speculated that Bugsy was one of the four men who executed Joe the Boss Massera at a New York City Italian restaurant in 1931. Quick little blurb about Joe the Boss. He was literally the boss for what is now known as the Genovese crime family, which is one of the 5 New York City mafia families. He was the boss there from 1922 to 1931, and his death led to the infamous Charles Luciano. Everyone knows Lucky, taking his throne as the chairman of the board of the American Mafia. Crazy. And Lucky, ended up making Meyer Lansky, the mob accountant, and his right-hand man when it came to managing the group, and specifically the crazies, Bugsy and Mo, his 2 longest friends. And then he ended up making Bugsy and Mo his doers in type of way. So like he was a right-hand man to Lucky, and then they were his right-hand man, which is exactly why everyone suspects that Bugsy was one of the 4 men that killed Joe, the boss, because Lucky was like in with their little crew and he knew that he would take over. Either way, in 1937, Meyer Linsky, I don't know why I can't say that name today, sent Bugsy and Mo to LA to build up the mob's West Coast branches syndicate presence at the very least. Now, because of the 21st Amendment that had just passed around this time, there really was no money to be made anymore in bootlegging or importing illegal alcohol, meaning they needed to find a brand new way to make the West Coast branch of the mob like money. And Bugsy knew exactly what he was going to do. He was going to focus on his other lifelong specialty, gambling. So he invested in the SS Rex, which was a gambling ship that was docked just 3 miles off the coast of Santa Monica to avoid California's anti-gambling laws. Unfortunately for him, though, the operation was eventually shut down and found out by the state, but not before Nevada, you guys are gonna get your panties in a wad, had legalized gambling. Bugsy immediately pitched his idea to create a city of sin. Not really, he didn't call it that, but that's what we're going to say pretty much.
Yeah.
To the East Coast headquarters, and they were all on board. They were like, Okay.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. City of Sin in the middle of the desert sounds great. So he packed up all of his crew on the West Coast and ditched LA for Vegas in 1945 when the East Coast sent him a bag of money to kickstart the gambling project, which Bugsy used to take over a struggling construction project just on the outskirts of Las Vegas city limits at that point in time. And it's a place that we all know, but specifically me and Morgan know very, very well. The Flamingo Hotel and Casino was funded by the New York City mob.
Yeah, I did track that hotel on my. I find my friend just a little too long.
Right. That would become the first. This would become.
We have the blueprint.
We know every single floor that's at that place, except for not really, because I'm sure there's a lot of underground shit going on there. So. The Flamingo Hotel would become the first luxury resort that was well known on what is now the Strip. And the grand opening was hosted on December 26, 1946, before it was even finished, to just kind of like gain momentum, but also because that was the cutoff date for the mob. But like, the building wasn't even done. 3 stories hadn't even been finished. So though they opened up the ones that were done and ready, it was horrible because there was construction going on. It was so loud all hours of the day. Like, the casino like didn't have all the kinks worked out in it, so it wasn't good. But it did gain a lot of fame for the Flamingo because so many people pulled up, such as Judy Garland being one major role here, Charles Coburn, June Haver, and many, many more. But after the big opening party, Bugsy shut the resort back down because of all the complaints, which really fucking pissed off the East Coast Syndicate, aka like Top Dogs HQ. Yeah. Not only because they were worried about how this luxury resort would turn out in the middle of what was then only a fucking desert with nothing else around it, but also because he had gone way over the original $1 million budget that they had given him and kept asking for more. So at this point in time, with it not even being opened yet, they had put $6 million into the Flamingo, yet somehow it still wasn't finished. Well, the bosses could only think of one reason that $6 million in fucking 40s couldn't magically get someone to blow fairy dust in a damn hotel pop up. So they were like, of course, Bugsy has got to be skimming off the top.
Yeah.
So there was a meeting called for all of the mob top dogs at Lucky's house in Cuba, because at this time he had been kicked out of the U.S. or fled to Cuba. And this was solely for the purpose of trying to figure out what they're going to do about Bugsy.
So I'm like, how did you even get there in the 40s? I don't.
How
did you get there?
To Cuba? Well, first off, Cuba's only like 90 miles, so he could have taken a boat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how'd you get from New York to Florida?
Right.
Drove it. Like, that had to be a lot. The roads
and that was
what
before you even had like the windshields on cars that weren't like magnifying glasses inside, so people would be burnt like to crisp from the sun driving during the day, and they couldn't drive at night because headlights sucked back then.
Yep.
That's crazy.
And the roads were terrible. Flat tires.
Terrible. Okay. So they have this meeting in Cuba, and they decide that if the Flamingo proved to be the success that Bugsy swore it would be, he would be okay. He'd be like, no biggie, you need to skim a little. If this turns out to be crazy, then all right, like,
you're dead.
Good for it.
Literally.
Yeah.
If this fucks up.
But if this fucks up, you're dead.
Yeah.
And that's literally what I had written next. Low key, it kind of shocked me though, because they gave him grace. Mm-hmm. You know, like, I feel like in the mob, for the most part, they're like, nope, that's enough. Like, Pop, you're done. We're going to take it over.
I wonder if he had numbers from opening night.
Yeah.
And he was like, I had to close it down, but this is what we made.
This is what we're doing.
Night.
Well, what I do know is I think after that, they actually were $200,000 in the hole.
Oh, after opening night.
Yeah. I think they actually like were.
Well, people got to win to want to go.
Right. So now that there was like all this buzz, and plus at this point in time, other people were hopping on and they started building on what is now the Strip, which I'm going to get to here in a second. So they kind of gave him a little grace. They had like faith in him, I guess, which thankfully ended up paying off, because by May of 1947, after the Flamingo had opened on March 1st, so 2 months, right? They had already profited over $250,000, and in today's money, that's $3.5 million. So
I saw that in your Google search. How much it was I saw that.
Yeah, how much?
I wonder what she's doing.
What is she talking about? Yeah, that's what it is. But the pushback for the doors actually being open made it possible for 2 other hotels and resorts to get their doors open before the Flamingo did.
Oh no.
Pissing the top dogs off because they were so convinced that Bugsy had been stealing from them. So like, okay, you made a profit of
250,000.
Yeah, 250,000. But like, to me, that makes me think like
also like we are now losing revenue because these ones are open. So why is anyone going to come to ours?
So like, why would anyone come to ours? Like, ours took forever and it got a bad rap because everyone was saying that it was so fucking loud and da-da-da-da. We shut it down to fix it. But like, still, like, there's only 3 fucking hotels and we're one of them.
Yeah.
They're pissed off because they're like, you know what? He's got to be, even now, stealing from us because this is just, the math isn't mathing. The number one mob rule is you never take from it. Like, you never steal from the mob. Because you're stealing out of everyone's pockets at that point.
Yeah.
That's how the mob works. So they put a hit out on him. On June 20th, 1947, Bugsy was sitting on the couch of his mistress's home, Virginia Hill in Beverly Hills, reading the LA Times beside his associate, Alan Smiley, at the mansion that sat on North Linden Drive, and he had actually leased it for his mistress, Virginia, as a gift. Also in the home was Virginia's brother, Chick Hill, his girlfriend, I don't know the name of, the cook, and then 2 others that we don't know the name. Well, I do know the name of, but I don't know if they're anyone important. However, Virginia, she was not there because she had left a few hours earlier to fly to like Paris or Europe or somewhere. And at approximately 10:45 p.m. or just before 11 p.m., depending on the source that you read, a bullet shattered through the glass window directly behind where Bugsy was sitting on the sofa and his buddy. This one bullet was followed by 8 more rounds. Out of the 9 total, only 4 of them hit their marks. 1 hit the bridge of Bugsy's nose, ripping out his left eye. A second entered his right cheek and exited out his neck in the back. And then 2 fatally struck him in the chest. The other 5 shots destroyed a white marble statue that was sitting on a grand piano in the living room. The rest of the bullets were all lodged in the wall that was like across that Bugsy would have been looking at when he was shot. Alan Smiley's arm was grazed by a bullet, but literally that was like the extent of the injuries of everyone else.
Just a little graze. So
yeah.
He's the only one dead in the house.
Investigators rushed to the scene. And this is Beverly Hills investigators rushed to the scene, and they determined that there had been at least 2 there's one shooter for sure, but they were like, we think that this had to be like a 2-person deal because like this is crazy. Specifically, they were able to determine that they used a .30 caliber military M1 carbine. If I showed you a picture of it, you'd be like, okay, I know what that is. I don't have a picture of it though, unfortunately.
Is it like the black like mafia gun?
No, it's like a wooden gun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like it's just
not
like
their little machine guns.
A little wooden gun, yeah. They think that the guns had to be at least 14 feet away from the window behind Bugsy under the cover of a rose-covered archway in the driveway of the home, meaning that the weapon or weapons would have been resting on the trellis of the archway just outside of the window into the home. Under the cover of darkness, because it was nighttime, and the quote abundance of shrubbery, creating a privacy fence around the home from the street. Well, just minutes after this, Meyer Langskis, his bestie since he was little, now the right-hand man to Lucky, had his 3 henchmen walk into the Flamingo Hotel, and they shut the doors behind them, and they called out to everyone that was in the casino, and they said, quote, this casino now belongs to the mob. If I was in that fucking casino, bitch, I'd be running out the back. Or I'd be like, who can I marry?
Yeah,
I would love to be a mob wife, please.
Don't kill me.
Don't kill me.
I do owe you money.
Yeah, I do.
Can I marry someone?
Exactly. If that's not dicey enough, this is kind of where you can see just how powerful the mob was at this time, and maybe even still today, because even with all of the widespread fame that Bugsy had at this point in time, like he was really well known. Like he was kind of like a local celebrity, or a U.S. celebrity at that, because he ran with this big mob, you know, and he was like always opening things and doing things all the time, and he was getting arrested and, you know, whatever. Well, the fucking medical examiner's office spelled his name wrong on his toe tag, and then only 6 people came to his funeral, and they only let it last 5 minutes because everyone was too afraid to go pay their respects because they thought they were going to get a hit on him.
Oh my God.
And despite the chief of police claiming that they used pretty much all of their manpower and spent months, like hours and hours and hours, dedicating their time to finding his killer or killers, no one was ever charged. It was simply just known that he was murdered by his own associates. So let's walk through the theorized suspects because no one has ever been charged. Number one, there's this World War II veteran named Robert McDonald, which only came into suspicion after Warren Hull, who was an executive assistant in Nevada, claimed it was well known in the McDonald family and kept like this big family secret that Robert had killed Bugsy. And how we get there is because, so when this Warren dude, when his dad was on his deathbed dying, like his last wish was for his son, Warren, to look into it and then take it to a reporter because he was like, someone needs to know about this. Why? I don't really know, because another thing is it's like
guilty conscience.
Well, no, because he wasn't even blood related to Robert McDonald.
But maybe because he knew.
Maybe because he knew. So the story behind this is that Warren's mother, so dying guy's wife, was best friends with and a cousin, so cousins and best friends with Robert McDonald's wife, Betty Ann McDonald. Well, Betty Ann was the daughter of a woman named Gaynell Rockwell who worked at LA's City Hall, and it was through her job there that she became really close friends with Jack Dragna, aka the Al Capone of California, who we're going to talk about like 2 other times in all of this. So like lock that name in, okay? Turns out Robert's mother-in-law, Gaynell, confided in Jack that her daughter, Betty Ann, was really struggling with her husband and his violent outbursts, aka Robert and his violent outbursts, only to find out that Jack knew Robert very well because bro owed the mob over $30,000.
Oh, damn.
Which is why he was acting out and being fucking crazy at home, because he was scared to death that he was going to get a hit on him. Dragna calls a meeting with Robert. He's like, tell Robert to come to my office. Robert comes to his office and he tells him like, look, if you go kill this guy named Bugsy and you stop being a piece of shit to your wife, I'm going to forgive all your debts. Jack knew that Robert was capable of doing this because of how highly regarded he was in the military for his marksmanship, specializing in .30 caliber carbines. Plus, he would have been able to go to and flee from the house on foot since he lived on a golf course that was just across the street, essentially, like less than a mile away from Virginia's house in Beverly Hills. But even more evidence against Robert was the fact that just 3 months after Bugsy's murder, he seemingly out of nowhere committed murder-suicide, shooting and killing his wife, Betty Ann, and then himself using a fucking .30 caliber carbine.
Holy shit.
So that's him. Suspect number one. Then we have Eddie Cananziaro. I'm sorry. He was the former errand boy of Jack Dragna, the Al Capone in California, and he was best known by his nickname, the Catman. So I'm calling Eddie or Catman because I am struggling with his last name. So he was dying of heart failure and eventually did die of heart failure in 1987. But just before his death, he calls a reporter and an FBI agent to come to his house, and he writes out 7 confessions, including the murder of Bugsy Siegel, explaining that he was picked to perform the hit because he knew Bugsy well and he wouldn't make the mistake of not know. Oh, I didn't know what he looked like. They wanted someone that knew Bugsy, knew what he looked like back, front, side to side, because they didn't want anybody else to be shot in the mix of all this, because this is an inside job, So these are also our other people that we have to protect. However, this didn't make a lot of sense because he claimed when he gave this confession that he was interviewed by the police in the initial investigation, yet he wasn't. He never was. And then also he claimed that after the murder, he jumped in his car and he drove down Wilshire Boulevard. Well, a neighbor comes forward that was questioned at the time. I'm sorry, they pull up the interview from the neighbor that was questioned at the time of the murder, and she said, no, the car I heard peeling off and saw like taillights of was heading towards Sunset Boulevard, which is on the opposite direction, which also cast doubt on Robert McDonald's potential responsibility for it because he left on foot. He would have left on foot. He wouldn't have driven. So that's number 2. This is number 3. This theory comes from the mouth of B. Sedway, the wife of Mo Sedway, one of the original trio between Bugsy, Mo, him, and then Meyer, the accountant, right? Okay. So apparently she knew that Mo had secretly been sending back casino numbers to the accountant and Lucky back on the East Coast, running the real numbers and sending back the real numbers. So that's how they knew Bugsy was skimming off the top, because
he was like, this was proven.
Yeah, well, it's never been like, it's mob shit. So like, It's never been proven, but
yeah. But like, I want to know, like, what if after his death they were like, oh,
he
damn.
didn't. Well, I don't think it mattered. I think he just pissed off so many people at that point in time. He was dead either way.
Yeah.
So Mo had been going behind his bestie's back and sending it to his other bestie. So it's like if you were sending shit about me to Madison and like with leave me out of the group message, that's fucking what was happening.
Yeah.
And you're like proving that I was lying about something. So like
the trio.
Yeah, the trio was like actually like broken apart, right? Well, Bugsy somehow gets word about this. So he calls a meeting in March of 1947, around the time that they officially opened the Flamingo Hotel, and did not include Mo. He was like, nobody tells Mo that we're doing this.
Mo's not the accountant.
Mo is not
the guy that was
sending all, not texting, but probably sending messenger pigeons, because I have no idea what they were fucking doing back at this time. So anyways, Mo is not invited. Bugsy, in this meeting, allegedly told all the others, he was like, look, I found out that Mo's a mole and I need him taken out. You guys game? Who wants to take him? Talking about his longest best friend. Well, one of the guys at the meeting was like super loyal to Mo. So he immediately went to Mo and was like, meet me outside at this place in the middle of the fucking desert. They go meet there right then and there. And Mo finds out that Bugsy put a hit out on him, essentially. And so immediately Mo calls his wife B and told her to get in the car, because she was in LA at their house. Get in the car from LA, drive to Vegas, pick me up at this location in the middle of the desert. And she does exactly, because like when you're a mob wife and you get a call like this, I'm in the fucking car, bitch. I got my fur coat on, my cigarettes in my hand, and I'm driving down the road with my big fucking glasses on. So she jumps in the car, she drives down there, she picks him up, he takes over the car. Now he's in the driver's seat. He's like not speaking to her. He drives her out into the desert, middle of the desert. They get to the like last road in this fucking remote desert. They walk miles into the desert because he did not want anyone to be around for what he was about to tell her. He tells her all of this and he says, if I fucking die, this is what you do. And this is who you need to call. This is what we're doing as of right now. So they make a game plan. They walk the million miles back in the middle of the desert to the car. They drive back.
I would have been like, is
they
he gonna
stop.
kill me? That's what I would have thought.
I don't know. When you're a mom wife, maybe you're packing too. Like,
yeah, you're like,
you know,
I'm gonna kill him.
Yeah, I'll kill him. He's gonna fucking kill me. I'll kill him first. They get back in the car. He drops her off at this like service station in the middle of fucking nowhere. Like it was so remote. Okay, this is like one of those that like probably gets one customer a day, but they have to have it just in case there's an emergency.
Yeah.
So they stop at this place. There's like a payphone or something. I don't know. Like, I don't know how the hell they were talking back in these days. And she calls this guy called Moose, and his name is Matthew Panza. He was a crane operator on the West Coast, a member of not the big mob, but like he was a mobster. Okay. And he was also B's lover, which Mo, her husband, knew all about because they had an open marriage.
Okay.
Like really progressive, but I guess you kind of have to be progressive and have an open marriage when she's 17 and you're 41 when you get married.
T.
Either way, the entire reason for her calling him was because Mo told her that he's the only other person that's allowed to know what's going on, and made Moose promise him that if I get killed, you marry her, you take all of our assets, and you protect her, period. And he was like, all right, boss. Because Moose worked for Mo.
That's crazy.
That's crazy shit, dude. That's crazy shit. So he's like, all right, no problem. And he said, okay, Moose, by the time we get back from the desert to Vegas, I want you there. And like waiting on her. And he's like, okay. So much
He's
tea.
probably like, here's my time.
So by the time B and Mo get back to Vegas from the desert, Moose is there waiting on them. Moose gets into the car with B and they go somewhere where they have a safe house. I don't know where, but until everything got sorted, Mo wanted her the fuck out of all of their homes, like nowhere near anything. Apparently, Mo, on the other hand, goes straight to Meyer Links, the buddy, the accountant, and fills him in on the situation. He's like, this is what I just found out. I already told B this. I got Moose in on it, but I need you to know what's going on. Okay, bitch, this was right before the meeting in Cuba. Shit. Meyer is like, all right, man, let me try and get this figured out. As of right now, though, like with me, you're good, you're protected. I'm going to pass it around. That happens. And then when they decide that Bugsy was no longer going to cut it anymore, allegedly Meyer, the accountant, calls Mo and is like, all right, this is our friend. We're going to be the ones to take him out. So you line it up, get it worked out. your life's, he's threatening you, he's putting a hit on you, you kill him then. So people wonder if maybe it wasn't the fact that the flamingo wasn't doing good, or if it was the fact that he turned on
Mo.
Yeah, and like he was being dirty, and it's like, no, we're supposed to be fucking family.
Yeah.
Like he got greedy.
That's what I think.
That's what I think, right? So Mo had already, since the time that he sent Moose away with B, he told Moose, he was like, I want you to start shooting, practicing. I want you to have a perfect aim. So this entire time, mind you, this has got to be from like,
assassin.
Yeah, he's building an assassin and Moose is like, I'll fucking protect you. Meanwhile, fucking his wife, but like, I mean, this is crazy. So he's like, all right, he's going to be here on this night, da 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 da. But Morgan, how did anyone know that Bugsy was going to be at Virginia's house sitting in that exact seat at that time of night? Well, his girlfriend, his mistress, Bugsy's mistress,
there.
Virginia Hills, who just so happened to leave a few hours before. Well, here's the other thing. It was well known that she was a courier for the Chicago mob.
Oh, shit.
In fact, she was such a mobster that she got ran out of the United States for tax evasion and moved to Europe.
Separate mob.
With a separate mob, but it's all like branches. It's all like
umbrella.
syndicates.
Okay.
So essentially, when she's 46, though, 49, she's living in Europe at this time because she got pushed out of the U.S. because of all of her tax evasion and shit. Someone poisons her, but it was marked as an overdose, and it was a mob doctor. T.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So that's the story.
Oh, I think Mo did it.
I think his besties did it. Like, I think it was, the besties were like, he's getting out of hand. He's Bugsy. Like, he's literally Bugsy. Mm-hmm. We're going to have to.
Bugsy's bugging out.
And he's getting out of hand. Like, he's getting too far into this shit. He's pushing too many people's buttons. Like, and that hurts our value. That hurts their value then, because if they're standing up for him, like, so they're like, we just got to pop him.
Take him out. That's crazy.
So that's the tea.
I didn't know the flamingo was the first, and I surely didn't know it was either by the mob.
I know. Well, thank you so much, Seattle, for getting us here. Oh, okay. I'm really proud of myself. I thought this was definitely gonna be an hour.
Oh, I thought it was an hour.
I thought it was an hour as well. And there was at one point where I felt like I was reading in slow motion. So, all right, guys. Thanks so much for joining us this TDD. We'll talk to you on Thursday and then again next TBB on Tuesday. Love you.
Bye.
Bye.